Test them and basically hold them up. So I'd like to introduce John Shipton. As many of you know, welcome John. He is the father of Julian Assange, who has been in prison for many years now. And I'll turn it over to John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Is it okay if I sit down or should I stand up? I guess it's good manners to stand. Well, I start off with gratitude, and the gratitude to the Australian people. The phenomenon of the Australian people gathering together and causing 84 members of the Australian Parliament to vote on a motion to send to the President of the United States that Julian Assange should be released. This process started in Peter Whish-Wilson's office about 2016. I went and saw him at his invitation, and he said, well, we should do something. So it was just Peter Whish-Wilson of the Greens, and myself, and Emma, who works with Peter. And that grew now to over half the Parliament supporting the return of Julian Assange home, and others in the Parliament supporting, but are not able to make their feelings known at this stage. This, I'll call it a phenomenon. This phenomenon is worldwide, and it has a number of elements put together by Australians. Now, yesterday was the celebration of Free Press. It was called Free Press Day. Free Press, the press in our times, the legacy press, is known for what it doesn't have in it rather than what it does. Although they say that they're free, they don't print anything and they don't examine issues. Now, I first go to Wilfred Burchett, who was an Australian, who was the first journalist at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and he broke the news of what a catastrophe was, a dropping of an atomic bomb, and was subsequently derided around the world, and eventually called to Henry Kissinger's office to discuss certain matters. A little later he reported from the Korean War, and he broke the story that the United States were using germ warfare, which of course got him derided again. However, he reported the Korean War from the North Korean side. Then we go to John Pilger. And John Pilger is an Australian who produced 60 films over 63 years and 25 books and numerous essays. He died recently, a great Australian, fearlessly bringing to us an understanding of the world. You might remember his reports on Cambodia, you may remember his reports on Vietnam, or you may remember his reports on the treatment of Aboriginal people or Indigenous people in Australia, or you may remember his last film, which is The Coming War with China, which still holds up really well. If you want to gather yourself a bit of knowledge as to the momentum of the United States and Australia in regard to China, have a look at that film. It's terrific. Next we go to an understanding, where did the Universal Declaration of Human Rights come from? Who fostered it into being? An Australian called Herbert Bear Evatt, who was the third President of the United Nations. Also, Australia was involved in the conventions of asylum, which we were brought into being in the United Nations General Assembly by the Whitlam government in 1973. I wish to go now to acknowledge, so I'm building a picture of an Australia that is constantly taken from us. You know, of these men who, and women, some of them quite witty but with great insight. Elizabeth Joly was asked what are the 10 great inventions of the 20th century, and she said, well, number 3 on the list is the washing machine. Every time I put the washing on, that Elizabeth Joly comes to mind in her wisdom. Pretty good, eh? So, you know, such standing of practical understanding. Next, we come to Gough Whitlam and Vincent Lingard. And I put these men and women under men and women of substance, which constitute this nervous system of Australia, its spine, its tendons, and its nervous system. And we see ourselves displayed by using them as a mirror. Gough Whitlam. It began his period in government with the idea to build a nation. And in order to do that, you need a history of spirit. And spirit itself comes from art in all its forms. Movies, documentaries, writing, authorship, painting and sculpture. He understood that. He understood that in order to have a community which understands itself, you need to see the work of artists. And so he began by promoting that and equally introducing education, free education. When I went to university as a mature student, by the way, you not only got access to the university, but you could apply for what we call Oz study. They would pay you to study. And if you could look after money, you could have a little bit of fun on the way. They paid you to study, not you paid them. They paid you because they understood that learning, education, STEM and history, art, was the way you built a country. And that's what they wanted to do, that group of people that moved into government. Now, they didn't move these items themselves. You know, they didn't come down from the clouds to land amongst us. They arose from within the body of the people of Australia. They descend and ascend from the people of Australia. This is really important to remember, because you can have the image put to us, removing our power, removing our social power from us, that the Prime Minister goes into his office, and as he walks through the door of the office, he becomes an enlightened being. Well, it's not true. His mum, Anthony Albanese's mum, was a housing commission tenant. The housing commission is a social effort to ensure that all the Australian people have somewhere to live, to make a life that includes all the theatre and drama of relationships, of hospitality, of silence and love. That's what a house is. And they made the effort to make sure that everybody had one. You could get a house. Not this idea that's prevalent now, where a house is something you trade to advance yourself, a tradable item. My home is not a tradable item. It contains within it all of the memories of my children's life and their mothers and me. That's what a house is. Also, you have a couch and the puppy dog can lie on it. Just to round these things all up together, without the good oil from men like Julian Assange, John Pilger, Wilfred Burchett. Now I name these, or Marianne Wilkinson if you want, I name these as high points so that we can grasp the understanding that they emanated from us and brought back to us an understanding of where we are in the world in order to foster a deeper understanding so that we may formulate policy and bring it towards government. Government can't do anything by itself. Now, I'm not deriding government, by the way. I'm just building, or attempting to build, the substance of ourselves, an understanding that within us, within our learning, within our capacity to speak to each other, within our capacity to converse with each other on a body of learning, we together fabricate a community which produces policies. Rather than taking the policies from the United States or the United Kingdom or any other group of blowhards who think that we ought to obey them. Okay, I'll leave that. AUKUS. We are given an opponent. It's presented to us. We're given an opponent named Russia, for example. I don't want to fight the Russians. But anyway, we're handed this opponent. That opponent builds Yasm-class submarines, which are the same as the Virginia-class that we were going to buy. Builds 8 of them for $9 billion. Okay? Our 8 costs $358 billion. We've already lost. We've lost a war that they've put us into because we just can't afford to play at that level. Already lost. That deal will never ever go ahead. The principal reason for this is the United States has what's called the Washington Consensus. The Washington Consensus ensures that none of the so-called allies of the United States are in a capacity to defend themselves without the assistance of the United States. We cannot defend ourselves. This is the Washington Consensus. So you know from that policy that's existed for 44 years, you know from that these things are never going to turn up. What we will get is what they want to give us. That's what it is. We'll get what they want to give us. I speculate that an Australian government, maybe the next one or the one after, will say to this deal, I'll see you later, we're going back to the French, you know. We can get 8 submarines for $80 billion and learn how to fabricate. The WTO rules, which are still in place, which we obey, the United States doesn't, but which we obey, say that you're not allowed to subsidise any industry. If you do, you can be sued. So they can sue your government. For example, if we subsidise washing machines, then the other manufacturers would be able to sue us. But it's not the case in defence. So the idea, when we embarked upon the French submarines, was to rebuild an industry from the bottom up in the most complex scientific industrial effort there is. Nuclear submarines. Rebuild your industry in a roundabout way. Really important. I mentioned these, all of the things I mentioned here today are to do with sovereignty, how to act in your own interest, how to know your own interest, how to get the good oil on where to pursue your own interests and how to go about it. And that gift is what men and women like Wilkinson, Pilger, Assange, Burchett, Kerry O'Brien, Brian Toohey bring to us. And they give it to us open-handed. Can you believe that? In a capitalist society in the midst of a neoliberal nuthouse, these men and women come with open hand. They don't ask, oh, give me money. It's there. You can go into you don't even have to pay. With WikiLeaks, the entire library is online. All you have to do is pay your data. Well, you don't even have to pay that. Go down the library and you can read all of the data in all of WikiLeaks libraries, John Pilger's works, Wilfred Burchett's works, Kerry O'Brien and others. Free. It's there. They brought these gifts to you because they are emanations of you. You created them. This community created them. These are big concepts, I know. You know, that a society actually is an organic life that has ebbs and flows within it. But that must be pretty obvious to all of us by now, as we see the kids in the United States saying, look, we've had enough of this. Mass murder is not our thing. Stop it.
Stop it!
Magnificent. Thank you.
Australia just actually bought in February for 917 million from Israel, some Elsrat or whatever system, 917 million in February, while the genocide was starting in October. Now they fucking starving the people there after bombing fucking anybody in there, the kids and everything. What a fucking outrageous situation. Where has our humanity gone?
I don't want to swear.
Don't swear, it's Nimbin.
But I just add something else. Richard Marles, the Defence Minister, you know, I don't like to name these people. The Defence Minister was over there in Ukraine the other day, took them $100 million. That's making a total of $1 billion that we've given to Ukraine. The war's over. Any of us here, and I know many people here for many years, could have told them that it was a dead end. 700,000 young men dead. What an achievement. An entire country wrecked up. Another great achievement. We could have told them, look fellas, Afghanistan's going nowhere. What are you doing in Afghanistan in the middle of China and India and Russia? It's going to go nowhere. We could have told them in Vietnam. In fact, we did. Many people here are Vietnam War warriors on both sides. And we told them that it's going to go nowhere. It's just going to cause death. We didn't ever imagine that it would cause 3 million deaths. And they still find bombs and Agent Orange in the food supply. We could have never imagined that, but we fought against it. The thing is that following the United States around has done us no good whatsoever. I'll add one more thing. What is Australia? This is good. Australia stretches in the east-western dimension from Norfolk Island to Christmas Island, thousands of kilometres. In the north-south dimension, it stretches from Cape York Peninsula to Heard Island down to Antarctica, a vast area. We are embraced by the Indian Ocean, which contains the strategic lines of communication of the Arabian Peninsula, the Horn of Africa, Pakistan, India, Indonesia, the Malaysia, and China. All of them communicate their strategic lines across there, their fuel and their exports. As Western Australia stands guard on it. Then we come round the corner. The Great Southern Ocean stretches from the Bight, the Great Australian Bight, down to Antarctica. Huge area. Then we come round the corner, the Tasman Sea. Then the Pacific Ocean, the vast Pacific Ocean. Then the Great Barrier Reef. Then Torres Strait. In an area teeming with riches of every imaginable sort on the land and in the oceans. This is what we are. This is our obligation, our responsibility, and our gift. An immense endowment, staggering endowment. Also, we are a continent which shares no borders with anybody else. Another immense gift. Anyway, I just would like you to understand that is us. This magnificent endowment, which is also a great responsibility, an obligation to look after, to care, to husband, if you want to use a term that I use, or to mother, if you want to use another term. This is what we've got. Hang on to it, treasure it, and bless it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, John. That was most interesting, and all the best. And we hope and pray that Julian gets some relief soon. So that's it now for this 10